Police surrounded the lake. I had spent half a year restoring from dust. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze as Officer Torres stepped forward, holding a complaint with my name on it. Behind him, HOA President Belle Carson stood, with that smug smile she always wore, as if she'd already won. "This lake belongs to Lakewood Estates," she said, pointing toward the water. "You can't just fence off community property." I removed my gloves slowly. "Ma'am, this lake is on my land. I have a state permit." Torres read my documents carefully, nodding. "Everything seems valid, Mrs. Carson. If you think the boundary's wrong, that's a civil issue. Take it to court." Her glare could have burned through metal. "You'll regret this, Parker," she hissed before storming off. But something else bothered me more. The old boundary marker showed fresh saw marks, as if someone had tried to move it. Someone was tampering with the line. That night, I studied my father's old deed. He had told me, "When I'm gone, bring the water back. It's what this land was meant for." Now I understood. The lake had been divided decades ago. Public land on the west. But my 8 acres held a main inlet, the spring that made the lake possible. Without my section, there would be no lake at all. I spent days comparing maps. The HOA's map was off 2 feet wrong, to be exact. I confirmed it with my GPS. Then, in the county records, I found the truth. The HOA's easement had expired more than 20 years ago. In 1982, my father had granted Lakewood Estates a 20-year access to cross his land for a $50 annual fee. But the payments stopped in 1997. When the lake dried up in 2005, the easement became void. The HOA had been trespassing for over 2 decades. As I photographed the old documents, a text flashed on my phone. "Saw the police at your lake. The HOA has been lying about our rights. Can we talk? Former HOA secretary." The next morning, I met Nora Blackwell at a small cafe. She was nervous but determined. "I was HOA secretary for 10 years, she said. Belle changed the official records. She rewrote board minutes to say our access was permanent, but I have the real ones." She showed me 2 versions of the same document, one handwritten, one typed. In the original, the board had agreed to renegotiate the easement after the lake's restoration. In the typed version, Carson had changed it to say community rights permanently established. She also played me an audio recording from a 2018 meeting. "We both know the easement expired," Carson said. "Find me a legal theory that keeps access, or find me a new lawyer." It was clear. Carson knew she had no rights and was fabricating them. She's been collecting $200 from every household for lake maintenance. Nora added quietly, "That's over $30,000 a year, and it's all fake." I realized this wasn't just a property dispute. It was fraud. That night, the HOA held a community meeting. Carson stood at the podium beside her lawyer, trying to turn the crowd against me. She claimed I was blocking a public lake and hurting property values. I waited until she was done, then asked, "Can you show the current easement that gives you access across my property?" The room went silent. She fumbled with her papers. I projected a photo of the original 1982 agreement on the wall, showing the expiration date, the missing payments, and the clause that voided the easement when the lake went dry. Whispers turned to shouting. Residents demanded to know where their HOA fees had gone. Carson's control unraveled before my eyes. As I left the meeting, another text came from Nora. "Meet me tomorrow morning. Bring those payment records. What you showed changed everything." The next day, she handed me a folder full of proof. Falsified meeting minutes, altered financial reports, and invoices from Carson's lawyer for adverse possession research. It was a web of deception built on greed. "This isn't about the lake anymore," I said, staring at the evidence. "This is criminal." And I meant it. The courthouse conference room was packed with neighbors and lawyers. Judge Hendricks sat at the front, expression neutral but sharp. This hearing would decide who truly owned the lake. Carson's attorney, Walsh, began with a polished speech about community heritage. He spoke of decades of shared use and claimed the lake fell under federal navigable water protection, making it public property. When it was my turn, I opened a letter from the State Water Resources Department. Parker Lake does not qualify as a navigable waterway. I read aloud. Its connection to Clearwater Creek is seasonal and non-commercial. Jurisdiction remains with the state. The room went still. Carson's lawyer blanched. Then I showed photos of the expired easement missing payments and the handwritten notes proving falsified records. Finally, I played Nora's audio recording. Carson's voice echoed through the room. We both know the easement expired. Find me a legal theory or find me a new lawyer. Chaos broke out. Residents shouted questions. We've been paying fees for this? How much money are we talking about? Judge Hendricks struck her gavel but couldn't silence the outrage. This mediation is no longer about a boundary, she said at last. It concerns fraud. Within days, the Attorney General opened an investigation. Nora's documents revealed Carson had diverted over $200,000 in HOA funds through her husband's company, disguised as community advocacy. Walsh's law firm had billed another $40,000 for fake legal work. Carson's empire was collapsing, but she didn't stop. One night, headlights flashed across my property. I looked out to see Carson, a man, and a third figure carrying a crowbar. They tore down my temporary fence and dumped garbage and motor oil into the wetlands I'd built to filter the lake. I recorded everything on my phone, whispering for the camera. Criminal vandalism, private property. Timestamp 1:14 a.m. By the time sheriff's deputies arrived, the damage was done. Oil slicks floated across the water. Cattails drooped under chemical burn. Deputy Martinez looked grim. Mr. Parker, this isn't vandalism. It's environmental crime. I spent the night deploying emergency booms and aerators, trying to save what fish I could. The next morning, the evidence went straight to Prosecutor Maria Santos. Within 72 hours, Carson was arrested on charges of fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and environmental vandalism. The HOA's accounts were frozen. The news spread fast. Neighbors who once shouted at me were now shouting for her resignation. At sentencing, the courtroom overflowed. Residents listened as Santos detailed how Carson had forged documents, pocketed community funds, and poisoned restored ecosystem out of spite. Judge Martinez's voice was firm. You defrauded your neighbors and attempted to destroy property you did not own. The court sentences you to 4 years in state prison and orders full restitution. Her husband received 2 years for his part. Walsh lost his law license for falsifying records. The HOA was fined $25,000 for environmental violations and required to repay every resident. As part of the civil settlement, I received $75,000 for restoration costs and complete court-recognized control of all lake access points. Yet I didn't close the gates forever. When a new HOA board formed, I offered them a choice. One Saturday each month, supervised community access, with a small fee to fund ongoing maintenance. Water belongs to everyone, I told them, but access must respect the law. Months passed. The wetlands recovered. The fish returned. The state's environmental agency granted Parker Lake a conservation award, calling it a model of private stewardship and public accountability. 2 years later, the case became national precedent. My website, Water Rights Recovery, offered free guides to homeowners facing HOA abuse. Law school studied the Parker case to show how documentation could defeat deception. But for me, the real victory wasn't in courtrooms or citations. It was here, on quiet evenings by the water. Children from Lakewood Estates now came to fish under the new agreement, their laughter mixing with the wind across the reeds. The lake that had once been a battlefield was alive again, clear and calm. My father's words returned to me. Bring that water back. It's what this land was meant for. I looked across the mirrored surface, where a heron stood motionless in the shallows. Water remembers who respects it. I said softly. Justice had taken its time, but it had arrived, steady as a ripple spreading across Parker Lake.